Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. Actually coming to you from the Meijer parking lot today, just because I got to stop in and do some shopping. And I wanted to really get this published quickly because those that follow know last night I tried to publish this thing like 8 times. I didn't even change the title on my YouTube page yet because I was so busy at work. So I want to try and get this recorded ASAP in case I have some difficulties tonight. But as always, my pleasure to come to you tonight. I'm flipping the tables on you. Most of my listeners have heard nothing about baseball, and it's been all football. So tonight, it's all baseball, folks. So if you're not a baseball fan, you can click stop right now. But for my baseball listeners, here we go. This is the time of the year that I love. I'm a baseball fan, don't get me wrong. I'll go to some Brewer games. I've been to some Cubs games. I've been to the Indianapolis Indians minor league games. I like going to the ballpark. But I had mentioned once, I will not sit in front of the TV and watch a game through its entirety. Now, that changes in the postseason. I will watch a postseason game. And that's why I like these 2 weeks leading up to the playoffs. This is where the races intensify. Every mistake is magnified. And this is where the races are won. But on the downside, we only have one good divisional race. I mean, if we look at all the divisions, Boston, 9 up on Tampa. Detroit, 6 up on Cleveland. Oakland, 6 up on Texas. You got Atlanta, 8 up on Washington. Dodgers are 10.5 up on Arizona. So those divisions are pretty well wrapped up. I mean, not officially yet. But if they collapse right now, that would be horrendous. But there's one great division rival going on right now. St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, that NL Central, up for grabs, and all 3 teams are in the hunt. And now I got a little bit of pride for Pittsburgh. I lived there for 7 years. I'm glad that they finally got over the hump of not losing again. Even though I'm a Brewer fan, I'm going to give them props. But it's funny how all my buddies will now text me, "Did you see the Pirates? See the Pirates? See the Pirates?" I'm like, where were you 4 years ago when you hated the Pirates? I mean, I don't know if this made national news, but about 4 or 5 years ago, when the Pirates were really bad, there was an article and an opinion page that went out that told fans to boycott the stadium because Nutting wouldn't open up the financials. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing ever. Like, come on. But these are the same fans now that are buying the tickets and are going to the games, and now they're happy because they're winning. It's great. I love it. I have no problem either way with it. It's just awesome. But St. Louis 1 up on Pittsburgh, 2.5 up on Cincinnati. Wild card, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati basically tied up. And you got Washington 4.5 back. Gonna be tough for Washington to break in there. However, the however is Pittsburgh and Cincinnati play 6 games. What if, and this is a big what if, because I can't see it happening, but what if Pittsburgh or Cincinnati happen to sweep the other? That's about the only way Washington could sneak into the wild card. Because I don't see Pittsburgh or Cincinnati overtaking St. Louis. I just don't see that happening. I think St. Louis is going to win that division. And I don't see Washington getting into the playoffs unless either Pittsburgh or Cincinnati sweeps the 6 games. Because here's what's most likely going to happen. They're going to split and go 3-3, and that's the best thing St. Louis could ask for. Because they're not going to gain any ground then. Unless St. Louis continues to lose. But basically playing 500 ball from here on out. Because Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, in reality, are probably going to split 3-3. But you never know. I mean, it's the world of baseball. But the real interesting series are out in the American League. We've actually got a good race going on out here in the AL. We've got Texas and Tampa Bay. They're the top 2 wild cards. But then you have Cleveland, only a half game behind, and they're playing some really good baseball right now. Baltimore's only 2 games back, and a little bit on the outside. I mean, 3.5, not a whole lot of games back, but man, there's only 11, 12 games left on the schedule for these teams. So making up 3.5 games, that is a lot. But New York and KC still have a slim chance to get in. But really, when I look at it, I don't think either are getting in. And here's why. I think of all the teams, the 4 teams that I mentioned, I really think Cleveland has the best shot to get into the playoffs. Because Cleveland has another game against KC. Very pivotal game. If Cleveland wins, basically going to knock KC from contention. Then Cleveland plays 4 at Houston. They could sweep Houston and get those 4. Probably go 3-1. Then they got 2 at the White Sox. They can take both those games. Then they finish up at Minnesota with 4 there. I think they have the easiest schedule of all of the wild card hopefuls. Texas, theirs is, they got 3 against KC, 3 against Houston, 3 against the Angels. Mediocre. I think Texas is going to be the other wild card. The team I think that Cleveland's going to overtake is Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's got 2 more games against Texas. They play 4 with Baltimore, 3 with the Yankees, and 3 with Toronto. I think they have the hardest schedule of those 6 teams I just mentioned. So I think my wild card is actually going to be Texas and Cleveland. Because I would say Baltimore because of the 4 games with Tampa Bay. But Baltimore's got 5 games against the Red Sox yet. So I just see a tough schedule for Baltimore. And I just don't see KC overcoming where they've got to go. I mean, if they win tonight, then it might change my opinion a little bit. But then they got 3 against Texas. I mean, then they finished with the Sox and the Mariners. So their next 4 games are very pivotal to them making the wild card. But I think Texas is going to take care of business when they play them. And so that's why I'm saying Texas and Cleveland are my NL wild cards. I think we stay status quo in our AL wild cards. Texas and Cleveland in the AL. I think we stay status quo in the NL. St. Louis wins the Central. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are going to actually be the wild card teams. I think going down the stretch, however, I actually think that Cincinnati is probably going to have a better record than Pittsburgh and actually host the wild card game. But I don't think it matters so much in that wild card game. It is a 1 game. We're going to throw our best people out there. We're going to try to win the game, and we'll deal with the consequences the next day if we're alive. And so I don't think home field advantage matters a whole lot in that play-in wild card game. For a series, I think it definitely matters. But for a 1-game wild card playoff, I don't think home field matters. I think what sucks is you're 1 and done. You have a great year, and you got a 1 and done play-in game. But that's the way the playoffs are. That's the way it's been working. And that's the way they're going to leave it. So with that said, folks, I hope you enjoyed my baseball Red Light Sports Ramble tonight. I'll see you at the next red light. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. My co-host, Evan Watallison, and I talking Packer recap of the Packer Redskins, and we look to preview the Bengals. And again, we're going to have a part 2, which is all of the Twitter questions. All day tomorrow, I'm going to be on Twitter asking for questions for Evan and myself for tomorrow night's episode of the Red Light Sports Ramble Twitter Talk. So, I'll see you at the next red light, folks. Enjoy the evening.